Chloe knew that only this specific herb could cure the poison coursing through her veins. Yet for my sake, she was willing to give her life-saving medicine to a conniving woman, asking only that I stay by her side during her final days. Reborn and facing this choice again, I took the medicine without a moment's hesitation. Chloe watched the security footage on her phone, a hollow ache spreading through her chest. She knew it had all been a dream, but she never imagined it would be so fleeting. So, after all that maneuvering, the man was still just after the medicinal herb. But Ethan had said it was a gift for her, and now he was still going through such elaborate means to get it himself. Was she that untrustworthy? Even though she knew he would do this, why did her chest still ache so painfully? The moment I retrieved the herb, Chloe immediately shut off the monitor. She curled into a ball, hugging her knees and covering her eyes. Beside her, her assistant, Jessica, asked timidly, "Miss Collins, should I go and bring him back?" Chloe's voice was hoarse. "No, have everyone pull back. Let him go." Jessica sighed but could only follow the order. Meanwhile, after getting the herb, I went straight to the kitchen, unaware of what had transpired upstairs, though I did find the first-floor lobby unusually quiet. An hour later, after brewing the medicine, I was carrying the bowl upstairs when I happened to run into Jessica coming down. Seeing me, Jessica was taken aback. "Why are you still here?" I frowned in confusion. "Leave? To where? I thought I was staying the night." Jessica's brow twitched, her gaze falling to the bowl in my hands. She couldn't help but ask, "What is that?" I looked at the person blocking my way. "It's medicine I brewed for your boss. Please step aside. It won't be as effective if it gets cold." Jessica stared at me in shock. "For Miss Collins? Is Miss Collins sick?" I paused my steps. So even her closest confidant didn't know Chloe had been poisoned? Thinking this, I gave Jessica a sympathetic look. "It doesn't concern you. Go back to sleep." Jessica felt 1,000 arrows pierce her heart. How could anything concerning Miss Collins not concern her? I didn't bother with her any longer, bypassing her and walking straight to Chloe's door to give it a knock. At that moment, Chloe was curled up in a corner, hugging her knees, letting herself be consumed by darkness. Hearing the knock, she pressed the intercom with a hint of irritation. "I don't want to be disturbed by anyone." Hearing her voice come through the sensor on Jessica's shoulder, I froze for a second. What was wrong with her? Jessica opened her mouth, unsure of what to say. Could she really say, "My boss thought you took the medicine and ran, so she locked herself away alone"? She couldn't explain this, so she decided to just let them sort it out themselves. With that thought, she knocked firmly on the door. "Miss Collins, Ethan is here." In less than 3 seconds, the door clicked open. Chloe stared blankly at me standing outside. "Why are you?" Her gaze shifted to what I was holding. "What is that?" I looked at her with a sense of helplessness. "Let me in first. If we delay any longer, the medicine will really get cold." Chloe stepped aside to let me in. As I walked toward the bedside table, I said, "I wanted to tell you first, but you didn't answer when I knocked. I thought you were asleep, so I went ahead and brewed the herb without asking." After speaking, I picked up the bowl and walked to her side. "Here, drink the medicine." Chloe didn't take it, her eyes still fixed on me. "For me?" I gave her a puzzled look. "Who else?" Chloe felt as if she were on a roller coaster. Her heart, which had just plummeted to rock bottom, slowly began to warm up. But then she realized a problem. "How did you know I needed this medicine?" For Ethan to brew it for her, he must have known she was poisoned. But she hadn't even told Jessica, so how did he find out? I lied without batting an eye. "Didn't you know I practice traditional medicine? I diagnosed it when I held your wrist today. Hurry and drink it. It won't be as effective if it gets cold." Chloe still didn't take it. Thinking about my unusual behavior tonight, she felt she was on the verge of a revelation. "Is this why you suddenly changed your attitude towards me?" This hinted truth made her newly warmed heart instantly plunge back into the abyss. So he was only using the medicine on her because he was afraid of being indebted. I looked confused. "What?" Chloe said dejectedly. "Does this mean that once I drink this medicine and the poison is cured, you can finally cut ties with me completely, without any psychological burden?" I was completely baffled. I never thought a casual lie could make her imagination run so wild, and I found it both frustrating and amusing. "If I wanted to cut ties with you, I would have just brought you the medicine. Why would I need to promise to be with you?" I looked at Chloe. "Do you not trust me? Or do you not have confidence in yourself?" Chloe gave a bitter smile. "Ethan, in this world, you're the only one who makes me feel insecure." She had been the golden girl her entire life, yet she had stumbled time and again with me. She would even feel jealous of a woman who was far inferior to her in every way, simply because that woman had monopolized nearly all of my attention. This time it was my turn to be silent for a long while. Then, without further explanation, I casually handed the medicine to her again. Anyway, the medicine is already brewed. The formula for Sophia's mother is different. It'll be a waste if you don't drink it. Chloe didn't refuse this time, but her heart was shrouded in gloom. She interpreted my change of subject and my tone as a death sentence for her hopes. Fine, if this was what Ethan wanted, she wouldn't trouble him any longer. After downing the bowl of herbal medicine, Chloe's delicate brows furrowed unconsciously. A smile played at the corners of my eyes. Is it bitter? Chloe wiped her lips. It's okay. My fault for not preparing some candy for you. Chloe couldn't help but laugh. It's fine. I'm not a child. As soon as she said it, Chloe realized that my last sentence didn't sound like something I would normally say. And if he truly intended to leave her, he certainly wouldn't go to such unnecessary trouble. Before she could look up to figure it out, a shadow suddenly fell over her. I leaned in, cupped her face with both hands and said, "Then let me help you with some of that bitterness." And then I kissed her. Chloe's pupils constricted. Her senses seemed to vanish in an instant as a wave of warmth crashed into her soul. An intimate atmosphere began to build in the bedroom, and both of us, swept up by the kiss, soon found ourselves tumbling onto the soft, large bed. I managed to pull back a sliver of rationality. You just finished your medicine. You should lie down and rest. The desire in Chloe's eyes was still thick and intoxicating as she gazed at me. Ethan, I gave you a chance to leave. You're the one who walked back in. If she had never had me, she would rather hurt herself than see me frown. But now that she truly had me, she could never let go. Whether Ethan loved her or not, he could forget about ever leaving her side again. Seeing Chloe's delicate body lean towards me, I gently pressed her shoulder, pulled the covers over her, and then sat on the chair by the bed. I looked at her and said softly, "Be good. Get some proper rest so your body can recover faster." Chloe watched me with hazy, beautiful eyes, her red lips parting slightly. But by then, I was so exhausted I barely had the strength to keep my eyes open. I didn't hear what she said, and I missed the almost pathological obsession and possessiveness in her gaze. The next morning, the moment I opened my eyes, I saw Chloe staring at me without blinking, with faint, dark circles under her eyes. My heart skipped a beat. I quickly reached out to check her pulse, and only after confirming the poison was completely gone did I finally breathe a sigh of relief. A suspicion then arose. She didn't stay up all night watching me, did she? As the thought crossed my mind, I asked her out loud. Chloe was silent for a long time before saying, "I was scared that this is all a dream, and that when I wake up, everything will be gone." I sighed inwardly. "Don't be afraid. I will never leave you." Chloe's heart trembled, and she threw her arms around me. "You said it." I nodded. "I said it." I patted her arm. "Let go for a second. I need to get up." But instead of letting go, Chloe held on even tighter. "Where are you going?" I pinched the bridge of my nose. Was it my imagination? How did Chloe seem to get even clingier after one night? "To the office, of course. You know how busy my position is." Chloe's jaw tightened slightly, but she said nothing. I keenly sensed what was bothering her and decided to tease her a little. "I almost forgot. Sophia is still at the company." Hearing this, Chloe's arms around me tightened again. "You're not allowed to go." She was suddenly frantic. Seeing her reaction, I smiled. "If you don't let me go to the office, how am I supposed to fire her?" Chloe's expression went blank. "What did you say?" I enunciated each word clearly. "You heard me. I said I'm going to kick her out of the company." "What? Do you have a problem with that?" Chloe felt like she must still be dreaming. After breakfast, I had to practically force a reluctant Chloe, who wanted to follow me to work, back into bed. Leaving her place, I walked straight to a Maybach parked by the roadside. My assistant, Sarah, saw me approaching, immediately got out of the driver's seat, and skillfully opened the rear door. "Mr. Hayes." I nodded in acknowledgement and ducked into the car. On the way to the office, Sarah kept glancing at me in the rearview mirror, looking like she wanted to say something. Even with my eyes closed, I couldn't ignore her intense gaze. "If you have something to ask, just say it." Sarah cleared her throat. "I have no right to inquire about your personal matters, Mr. Hayes. But if you wish to share, as your executive assistant, I am of course all ears." I almost choked. Was I usually too easygoing? What kind of executive assistant dares to tease their boss like that? But teasing aside, I figured there was no need to hide this from her. "Sophia and I broke up. My girlfriend now is Chloe Collins. Just be mindful of that when you see them in the future." Although she had an inkling, Sarah was still a bit surprised to hear it confirmed. Then, a smile spread across her lips, her eyes filled with genuine relief. "Congratulations, Mr. Hayes. There's something I've been wanting to say, if I may. Hitting rush hour traffic, Sarah stepped on the brake, her thoughts becoming clearer. Knowing her boss had a new partner, she spoke more freely. I've always felt that Director Reed wasn't worthy of you. I never understood why you chose her and ignored Chloe Collins, who is superior in every way and so devoted to you. But it's good you've changed your mind now. It's not too late, but we had already missed an entire lifetime. If I hadn't been reborn, it would have been just as Chloe said. We might never have had the chance to meet in the next life. As for why I chose Sophia before, it wasn't that I was blind, choosing someone inferior to Chloe in every way over a woman I genuinely admired. The truth was, Sophia and I had fallen in love in a past life, in ancient times, and we had died together in a suicide pact. When I was born into this modern era with memories of that first life, it was impossible for me not to search for her, and impossible to give any other woman a chance. After all, loyalty and love is ingrained in my very soul. But in my last life, after I found Sophia, I never looked down on her difficult circumstances. I comforted her, saying it was just bad luck she didn't have her memories, brought her into my company, promoted her all the way to second in command, and even helped her, an illegitimate daughter, return to her powerful family, tirelessly managing their business for her. And yet, it all ended so tragically. Remembering the vow we made when we died together, 3 lives, 3 worlds, eternally devoted, now feels like a joke. I watched the scenery fly by outside the car window, a flicker of anticipation for what was to come. Sophia, for what you owed me in our past 2 lives, I'm going to collect the debt in full this time. Upon arriving at the office, I walked past the greetings of the employees and went straight to the executive elevator. As I pressed the button for the top floor, I gave an order: summon all senior management for a meeting in the conference room in half an hour. Also, see if Sophia Reed has arrived. If not, call her and tell her to get here. I paused, then added, even if she's in the hospital on an 4 drip, she needs to be here. Sarah nodded, but couldn't help her curiosity. Director Reed was in the hospital? Connecting that with the fact that her boss had just changed girlfriends, she felt like she was onto something big. Once in my office, I opened my computer, pulled up a file, printed it, and placed it in a folder. As I flipped through the pages of evidence, a cold sneer touched my lips. The first step of my revenge, of course, was to drive Sophia out of the company. If she wanted to use me as a stepping stone and my assets as capital for her family reunion, she'd have to see if I'd give her the chance. Just as I was thinking this, there was a knock on my office door. I stood up with the folder, and upon opening the door, I saw Sophia standing outside with an anxious expression. Ethan, I finally found you. What happened last night? I heard from Mrs. Lee that you didn't come home at all. Were you at Chloe's place the whole time? By the end, her voice was clearly agitated. I didn't answer her question. Instead, I glanced at her hand, which was thickly wrapped in white gauze, and smiled. Is your hand okay? At the mention of her hand, a shadow crossed Sophia's eyes, but hearing my concern, she immediately started playing the victim, trying to make me feel sorry for her. The doctor said I needed to be hospitalized, but I was too worried about you, so I just had them wrap it up simply. You know medicine too, don't you? Can you take a look and see if they did a good job? I walked right past her and headed for the elevator. Sophia fell into step beside me. Knowing her true colors, even being in the same enclosed space with her made me uncomfortable. Fortunately, the conference room floor wasn't far from the top, and before Sophia could try to speak again, the elevator chimed to a stop. After exiting the elevator, I took a deep breath of fresh air and walked directly to the executive conference room at the end of the hall. Sarah was waiting by the door and opened it for me. Mr. Hayes, everyone has arrived. Sophia gave Sarah a suspicious look. For some reason, she felt the way Sarah was looking at her today was strange. Sarah pretended not to notice, clutching a stack of files as she followed me. Under the gazes of all the senior executives, I calmly walked to the head of the conference table and sat down. With a sharp slap, I threw the folder onto the table, causing everyone to look over. Leaning back in my chair and resting my chin on my hand, I said, I've called you all here today to announce some adjustments and changes to certain senior management positions. I then turned to Sophia, who had just taken her seat. During her tenure, Director Reed has repeatedly used her position to embezzle company funds, severely damaging the company's interests. After careful consideration, the decision has been made to terminate her employment contract with the company. I paused, looking again at the stunned Sophia. Director Reed, will you be resigning, or will you wait for the company to fire you? As my words fell, the entire conference room went silent. Not only did Sophia look completely dazed, but the other executives were also frozen in place, as if they couldn't believe what they had just heard. Everyone's first thought was that the couple was having a fight. Some were gloating while others tried to play peacemaker. Mr. Hayes, isn't this punishment a bit too severe? Director Reed may have made a mistake, but she has also made great contributions, hasn't she? Under her leadership, the sales department's performance has been steadily increasing. Besides, the embezzlement issue is in the past, and she has already paid the money back. Can't we consider a different form of punishment? I looked at the speaker, thinking to myself that Sophia was truly skilled, able to win over a veteran executive in less than a year. So, according to Director Miller, the sales department's success is all her doing? And embezzling funds, a criminal offense, can just be easily overlooked? Is that it? I didn't mean that. Beads of sweat formed on Mr. Miller's forehead. Catching Sophia's pleading gaze, he had no choice but to press on. Mr. Hayes, we've all seen your relationship with Director Reed. We know couples can have their disagreements. I'm just worried you two will take it too far, and it will be hard to reconcile later. I sneered. So I should thank you for your concern? Not at all, not at all. Miller waved his hands dismissively, but still wanted to continue persuading me. I cut him off. Just one thing, Director Miller. Am I the CEO, or are you? Miller was instantly silenced, shooting Sophia a look that said he could do no more. Sophia cursed useless under her breath and pinned her hopes on me. Ethan, I need to talk to you alone. I didn't refuse. If it weren't for the fact that executive dismissals require a formal meeting and some degree of consultation, I wouldn't have bothered with this process. After dismissing the other executives, Sophia immediately stood up, leaned forward to show off her curves, and lifted my chin with a slender finger. Her voice was sultry and alluring. Ethan, I need an explanation. I chuckled. Embezzling company funds and then getting fired. What's the problem with that? Sophia frowned at me. You know that's not what I'm asking about. Besides, if you were angry about that, you wouldn't have waited until now to confront me, and you certainly wouldn't have personally used your own money to cover the shortfall for me, would you? The smile on my face began to feel strained. Was she reminding me of how foolish I used to be? You really want to know why? I crossed my arms. Though I was sitting, my gaze towards Sophia was filled with disdain. When I loved you, I could put you on a pedestal. Now that I don't, what do you think you are? Sophia's fists clenched, her chest heaving. Ethan, you were the one who pursued me, and now you just say you don't love me anymore? Then who do you love? Chloe Collins. My face filled with impatience. It's none of your business, and don't act like you're the victim here. Whether you truly liked me or were just using me as a tool to get back to your family, I think you know the answer better than anyone. Sophia, I have done nothing to wrong you, but what you owe me, you can never repay in this lifetime. A flicker of guilt crossed Sophia's face, but my last sentence seemed to imply there was more. She was about to speak when I pushed her away. Go submit your resignation yourself. Don't make me say it a second time. With that, I walked out without a backward glance. The dismissed executives had assumed the couple would talk things out behind closed doors and resolve their conflict, but instead they saw Sophia walking out of the building with her belongings, looking completely dejected. Instantly, rumors began to fly within the company. Meanwhile, when Chloe woke up, she saw a woman in a white lab coat talking with Jessica, her back to the bed. Miss Collins, you're awake. Seeing Chloe's eyes open, Jessica immediately rushed over. Dr. Claire Collins casually sat on the edge of the bed, cracking sunflower seeds, and checked Chloe's pulse. The poison is cleared. By the way, when you said you were going to give the medicine to someone else yesterday, you made me furious. What made you change your mind? Before Chloe could speak, Jessica explained, it was Mr. Hayes who decided to brew the medicine for Miss Collins. And Mr. Hayes and my boss are together now. Remembering my rather sympathetic look from last night, Jessica felt a surge of grievance. Miss Collins, why didn't you tell me you were poisoned? Don't you trust me anymore? Who poisoned you? Chloe ignored her and looked at Claire instead. Why are you here? You think I wanted to come? I was worried about you. Claire rolled her eyes at her, then asked, but isn't that guy completely fixated on that Sophia woman? For him to suddenly be so good to you and choose to be with you, aren't you suspicious he has some ulterior motive? Chloe's eyes burned with a desperate passion. So what if he has a motive? I'm willing to give him anything he wants, including my life. Hearing this, Claire couldn't help but curse. Are you insane? Always talking about giving away your life. Is your life that worthless? Jessica quickly brought over a cup of tea and began diligently massaging Claire's shoulders, thinking that besides her boss's cousin, no one else their age would dare speak to Miss Collins like that. The tea didn't seem to calm Claire down. After downing a few more cups, she set the cup on the table, straightened her collar and said, all right, I'm relieved you're okay. I have a ton of work waiting for me at the lab. I'm leaving, no need to see me out. Although Claire said not to, Jessica still arranged for someone to take her to the airport. After getting up, Chloe looked around the empty mansion and felt a sudden sense of unease, even though Ethan had only stayed for one night. At that thought, she turned to Jessica. Get the car ready. I'm going to pick up my… She bit her lip before continuing. Pick up my boyfriend from work. After receiving Sophia's resignation, I made a few more personnel changes and then spent the rest of the day in my office handling work as usual. When it was time to leave, I rubbed my temples and glanced at my phone, which was flooded with missed calls and messages from Sophia and her brother. I didn't even look at them, deleting everything and blocking both their numbers. But just as I stepped out of the company building, Sophia's brother, Leo Reed, walked right up to me. As a public figure, Leo was completely disguised, wrapped up so tightly that even his most dedicated fans might not recognize him. But I recognized him instantly. Sophia had embezzled funds multiple times specifically to pour resources into Leo's career, trying to make him a star as her second piece of leverage for returning to the Reed family. After all, the main business of the New York Reeds was in the entertainment industry. Acknowledging a popular young actor as a son, even an illegitimate one, held a certain appeal for the family patriarch. Leo came forward and grabbed my arm. Brother-in-law, why didn't you answer my calls? What's going on with you and my sister? Why did you make her quit? Chloe, who had seen me come out and was about to get out of the car, froze with her hand on the door handle when she heard Leo's words. Jessica, in the driver's seat, turned around. Miss Collins, did you hear that? Mr. Hayes fired Sophia. It seems he really wants to be with you. As she spoke, she glanced in the rearview mirror, only to find that Chloe's expression wasn't exactly bright. Chloe indeed did not feel the satisfaction Jessica imagined. She had already known since the morning that I was going to fire Sophia. It was the term brother-in-law that made her feel disgusted. Unaware that someone's focus had strayed and a vat of jealousy had been overturned, I shook off Leo's hand. You already know she quit, but you don't know why? Didn't she tell you? Leo was taken aback, finding this version of me unfamiliar. But didn't you tacitly approve of all that? My sister worked so hard for the company. She deserves credit for her achievements and her effort. How can you fire her over something that's in the past? And she got that injury on her hand because of you, right? You used to get so nervous if my sister even caught a cold. This time she's seriously hurt, and even if you don't feel bad, how can you pick a fight with her now? Leo's voice was full of accusation, as if I were entirely at fault. I cut him off coldly. It's not your place to comment on my actions. If you think it's unfair, go report me to the Department of Labor. Now move. Don't make me say it again. Leo panicked. Brother-in-law. I shot him a glare. Who's your brother-in-law? Sophia and I have broken up. Don't call me that again. My girlfriend might get the wrong idea. At these words, not only was Leo stunned, but the surrounding employees also stared with wide eyes. They had guessed their CEO had broken up with his girlfriend, but now that I had a new one, the senior management couldn't help but worry. Sophia had just left. Was another one coming? Given my high status, everyone subconsciously assumed that any girlfriend I found was a charity case. Just then, a series of gasps rippled through the crowd. Who is that? She's gorgeous. Is she some kind of celebrity? I've never seen her before. I've seen her. I think she's been to our company before. As the chatter grew louder, everyone turned to look at the approaching Chloe, their faces filled with confusion. Why would the heiress of the Collins family suddenly show up here? Was it for a business deal? But it was after hours. Just as they were wondering, they saw Chloe walk up to my side, stop, and look at me with a radiant smile. Ready to go? I came to take you home. Seeing this, the company employees present stared with wide eyes, a bold guess forming in their minds, though no one dared to ask. Leo, who had been shocked into silence by my words, finally snapped back to reality, his eyes filled with disbelief. You two are together? The first time he saw Chloe, he was stunned by her beauty. She was gorgeous and had an illustrious background. Leo had even wondered if Ethan had been kicked in the head by a donkey, to ignore someone like Chloe and be so devoted to his sister instead. But seeing this scene now, he found it incredibly jarring. I ignored Leo. To be precise, from the moment Chloe appeared, my gaze hadn't left her face. What are you doing here? Chloe lowered her head and gave a small smile. Picking up my boyfriend from work. Her words, equivalent to a public announcement, instantly sent the crowd into an uproar. So this really was Mr. Hayes' new girlfriend. I smiled along with her. Let's go. Leo rushed forward. You're not going anywhere. You cheated. What did my sister ever do to you for you to just use her and throw her away? How could you do this to her? Everyone took a step back, watching the frantic Leo. Who is this guy? He's acting like a lunatic. Is this how Director Reed's brother behaves? Director? Sophia Reed has already been kicked out, okay? But doesn't anyone think he looks a bit like a celebrity? I remember now, he looks like that actor Leo Reed, and they both have the same last name. They couldn't actually be siblings, could they? When Leo realized someone had recognized him, he immediately shut his mouth, shot me a hateful glare, and turned to leave. After getting into Chloe's car, I rolled down the window and looked at Sarah. I have a task for you. Mr. Morgan at Starlight Entertainment is thinking of leaving the board. Contact him and acquire all of his shares in my name. Starlight Entertainment was headquartered in Miami and was the agency Leo was signed with. Sarah was a bit puzzled as to how I knew Mr. Morgan wanted to sell his shares, but she didn't ask, simply nodding in agreement. Jessica watched Sarah leave, and as she started the car, she glanced in the rearview mirror and asked, Miss Collins, are we going back to Royal Gardens or to Imperial Bay? Royal Gardens was Chloe's residence, and Imperial Bay was mine, both in prime, expensive areas of Miami. Chloe looked at me, her eyes asking the question. I said calmly, to Imperial Bay. Chloe just said, oh, her tone a little disappointed. Jessica mentally slapped herself. Why did she even ask? She should have just driven them to Royal Gardens. Was her boss going to give her trouble for this later? Neither of the two in the back paid any attention to Jessica's turmoil. I looked at the woman whose ears seemed to be drooping and amusingly patted her head. You don't want me to go back? Chloe looked at me pitifully. What do you think? My tone was troubled, but I have some important documents at home that I need to deal with. How about tomorrow? Chloe nodded. Okay, whatever you say is fine. With that, I kissed Chloe's forehead. It was a light, fleeting touch, and Chloe, dissatisfied, pursued me. You weren't like this yesterday. She then pressed me against the car door and kissed me again, this time with force. Hearing the intimate sounds from the back seat, Jessica silently raised the partition, her face alternating between red and pale. Her earlier premonition was confirmed, but right now, she just wanted to kick over this bowl of sweetness. The car drove all the way to Imperial Bay. Jessica cleared her throat. Miss Collins, Mr. Hayes, we've arrived. Chloe reluctantly pulled her lips away. Go on back. My face flushed. I opened the car door and took a deep breath of fresh air as soon as I got out. The cool evening breeze helped to dispel some of the heat I was feeling. I patted my cheeks, belatedly realizing, wasn't I the one who initiated the flirting with Chloe? How did I end up being the one so overwhelmed I could barely breathe? Questioning my life choices, I walked up to the door of a standalone villa and rang the bell. A moment later, the door opened from the inside, and a woman in a blue-gray apron greeted me with a smile. Mr. Hayes, you're back. Dinner will be ready shortly. I nodded and walked inside. You didn't come home at all last night. Where were you? The moment I stepped into the living room, I was met with a sharp question. Sophia's mother, Mrs. Reed, was sitting in the center of the living room sofa with her arms crossed, looking ready to interrogate me. The housekeeper, Mrs. Lee, wrung the edge of her apron awkwardly. Mr. Hayes, I forgot to mention, Mrs. Reed is here. She's been waiting for you for a while. I crossed my arms and leaned against the corner wall, looking at Mrs. Reed with a sarcastic gaze. Where I go, does that have anything to do with you? Looking at you, anyone who didn't know better would think this was your house. Mrs. Reed's eyebrows shot up, as if she couldn't believe her ears. How dare you speak to me like that? Don't you know Sophia was injured last night? I just said, oh, is that all you know? That she was injured? Mrs. Reed frowned. What do you mean? I walked over to the sofa opposite her, sat down, crossed my legs, and leisurely poured myself a cup of tea. Only after finishing it did I look up at her and ask, I know she was injured. So what? Mrs. Reed was both angry and confused by my nonchalant attitude, but since I had given her an opening, she pressed on. I heard from Leo that Sophia got hurt because of you. It's one thing that you're not at the hospital taking care of her, but not giving her a promotion is just unacceptable, isn't it? I looked at Mrs. Reed as if she were a joke. How about I just give her the whole company? Mrs. Reed's eyes lit up, but she maintained her arrogant posture. Everything you have was always meant for Sophia anyway. Even if you don't give it to her now, you'll have to in the future. The cup in my hand landed heavily on the coffee table. The Qing dynasty fell a long time ago. Are you still living in the past? What? Mrs. Reed was stunned by the insult. When she processed it, she flew into a rage. How dare you insult me? You've really got some nerve. Believe it or not, I'll have Sophia break up with you. I looked at her sarcastically. Don't bother. Your precious daughter has already been kicked out by me. Now, please, Get out of my house immediately. After I spoke, Mrs. Reed stared blankly for a long time before it sank in. What do you mean by that? You and Sophia broke up? How is that possible? She knew how devoted I was to her daughter, which was why she dared to manipulate me at every turn, even though I was the CEO of a major company. And now I was telling her I had broken up with her daughter? I leisurely enjoyed the colorful expressions on her face. If you don't believe me, why don't you give her a call and ask? And by kicked out, I don't just mean we broke up. Her job is gone too. Mrs. Reed's face paled, and she quickly pulled out her phone to call Sophia. The moment the call connected, she barraged her with questions. I couldn't hear what was said on the other end, but I could clearly see the color drain from Mrs. Reed's face until it was as white as paper. This was truly delightful. So now you know? I gestured towards the door. Get out. Hearing my voice, a flicker of life returned to Mrs. Reed's frozen eyes. Ignoring my disrespect, she moved to sit beside me, trying to curry favor. Ethan, dear, it was my fault. I shouldn't have come to you without knowing the full story. Are you and Sophia having a fight? Tell me, and I'll be sure to discipline her for you later. Don't be truly angry with her. I looked at Mrs. Reed's fawning expression with utter disgust and stood up. You really know how to bend and scrape, don't you? Then I pointed to the door. I'll say it one more time. Get out. Mrs. Reed's face was filled with anxiety and pleading, all her earlier arrogance gone. But I didn't want to say another word to her. Mrs. Lee, get her out of here. The housekeeper, who had been silent until now, looked troubled at my command. Mr. Hayes, let's talk things out calmly. Mrs. Reed is right. It's normal for couples to have disagreements. If you make things this tense, how will you reconcile later? I gave her a half smile. Mrs. Lee, have you forgotten who pays your salary? Mrs. Lee immediately fell silent and turned to Mrs. Reed. Mrs. Reed, I think it's best if you leave. With things said so plainly, Mrs. Reed couldn't possibly stay any longer. A person used to being domineering can only bow their head once or twice. After being repeatedly humiliated by me, her temper flared. What's there to be so arrogant about, coming from an orphanage? You remember this, you're the one giving up on Sophia this time. Don't you dare regret it later. Once we're back with the Reed family, even if you get on your knees and beg Sophia to take you back, I won't let you through the door. With that, Mrs. Reed stormed out without a backward glance. But she had no idea that by the time her family of 3 returned to the Reeds, Sophia would find that my status was something she could never hope to reach. I leaned back against the sofa, feeling weary. The empty living room felt particularly lonely. Before long, my phone rang. I glanced at the caller ID, and my voice softened. What's wrong? Chloe's pleasant voice came through the receiver. Are you in a bad mood? I pinched the bridge of my nose. Is it that obvious? You can tell just from my voice. There was a moment of silence on Chloe's end. Did Sophia's mother go to cause trouble for you? I shot up from the sofa, walked out of the villa, and scanned the area. The black Bentley was still parked in the same spot, but the driver's seat was empty. I walked quickly to the rear passenger door and knocked. The door opened, revealing Chloe's exquisitely contoured profile. I opened my mouth, but it took a few breaths before I could voice the question in my heart. Why are you still here? Chloe was silent for a moment. I wanted to wait and drive you to work tomorrow. Seeing me silent, she lowered her head guiltily. I didn't want to bother you, but I saw the person who just left, guessed what might have happened, and was worried you'd be in a bad mood all by yourself. Waiting to drive me to work? I didn't know if Chloe was crazy or if I was. You're just going to wait here? Are you planning to spend the night in the car? Chloe didn't speak, her head hanging even lower. I felt like my heart was about to explode. I just needed an outlet, a way to let loose. And so, a very guilty Chloe was dragged back into the villa by me. The food on the dining table was no longer steaming, but it was still edible. I took 2 bottles of Bordeaux from the wine cabinet, and while letting them breathe, I shot Chloe an annoyed look. Eat. Chloe lowered her head and apologized. I was wrong, don't be angry. I glanced at the wine chilling in the ice bucket, bit my chopsticks, and smiled. I should be rewarding you. Even though my smile was a bit sinister, Chloe was still intrigued. Reward me with what? What do you think? I tossed the question back to her and went back to eating. After dinner, I poured the decanted wine into our glasses and clinked mine against Chloe's. A toast to your recovery and ridding your body of poison. A toast to my new life and clearing out the trash around me. And a toast to our second day together and to all the days to come. Without waiting for Chloe's reaction, I raised my glass and drained it. I poured myself another, clinked her glass again, and asked, "Why aren't you drinking? This isn't cheap wine. Isn't this worth celebrating?" With that, I downed another glass. As I was about to pour a third, Chloe reached out and stopped me. "You're drunk." I raised an eyebrow. "Are you kidding? I've only had 2 glasses." Chloe kept her hand firmly on the glass. "Don't drink anymore. No more." I relented, letting go. "I'll listen to my wife." I looked at Chloe with a smile, my eyes swirling with a desire that could drown a person. "Ethan, if you don't want to be unable to get out of bed tomorrow, you'd better not look at me like that." Even knowing I was drunk, she was incredibly excited by my casual use of the word wife. She knew how little self-control she had around me, yet I still dared to tease her so recklessly. My drunken eyes seemed to be trying to decipher her words. Then, whether I understood or not, I beckoned to Chloe with my finger and commanded, "Come here. I can't let Ethan drink anymore." That was Chloe's first thought. Before long, I was completely incoherent. I dazedly carried her back to the room, gently stroking her cheek. "Why are you so good to me?" Before she could answer, I added, "In this life, it's my turn to spoil you." "What?" Chloe didn't quite catch that last part, but I refused to say it again. Chloe chuckled and kissed my forehead lightly. "You're not happy that I'm good to you?" I mumbled, and then, for some reason, started obsessing over a thought. Does it matter how capable I am? If I don't come from a good background, will some people always look down on me? Chloe's expression turned serious. "Who would dare?" Unaware of her thoughts, I grabbed her collar. "Will your parents look down on my background too? Will they not let me be with you?" Hearing this, Chloe understood. Remembering Mrs. Reed leaving the villa, a dark glint flashed in her eyes. She took my hands with her slender ones and said solemnly, "My parents won't. They will only be amazed by your capabilities, that you could come so far from such a background." I blinked my hazy eyes. "Really?" Chloe nodded seriously. "Really. My parents are very open-minded and respect my decisions. If you don't believe me, I'll take you home to meet them tomorrow." Seeing me fall silent again, Chloe felt a pang of disappointment, but she didn't expect a completely drunk person to understand everything she said. She took out her phone to make a call, then turned up the thermostat and patiently helped me take off my shoes. By the time Chloe was done, Jessica had arrived at Imperial Bay with a freshly made sobriety soup. After sending Jessica away, Chloe held the soup in one hand and helped me sit up with the other. "Good boy. Drink this and then go to sleep." I leaned in, sniffed it, and immediately turned my head away in refusal. Chloe found it amusing, and the scene felt familiar. "I drank that bitter herbal medicine, and you're complaining about the taste of this?" I still refused. Chloe coaxed me softly. "Come on, drink it. Or do you want me to feed it to you another way?" I took the bowl, and before she could react, I dumped the entire thing, soup and all, into the trash can by the bed. Before Chloe could even process what happened, I tilted my head up and kissed her lips. The next day, I was groggily awakened by a phone call. As soon as I answered, I heard Sarah's anxious voice. "Mr. Hayes, check the trending topics on Twitter. Leo Reed posted something to slander you and the company, and our stock price is already starting to fall." Hearing Sarah's words, I just gave a nonchalant "Oh, it's not a big deal. You've been with me for so long. How can you be so flustered?" I was actually worried Leo wouldn't cause trouble. Now that he was willingly serving himself up on a platter, it was exactly what I wanted. Sarah was once again impressed by my composure. "I'm sorry, Mr. Hayes. I overreacted. But what Leo posted is just infuriating. He also paid for trending spots and negative comments, and with his fans, Twitter is now flooded with insults directed at you. I just can't stand it." I said calmly, "It's fine. Let them talk." Whenever the entertainment industry is involved, the online battles become particularly fierce. In my past life, I helped Sophia manage Celestial Entertainment, which dominated half the industry, so I was no stranger to this. Sarah was surprised. "Mr. Hayes, aren't we going to release the evidence of Sophia's embezzlement?" I smiled. "Of course we'll release the evidence, but not just that. I'll handle it when I get to the office. You just focus on reassuring the shareholders. I'm not just looking for a clarification. I'm aiming to kill 2 birds with 1 stone." Chloe saw the excitement and eagerness in my eyes and amusingly pinched my earlobe. "It looks like you already predicted Leo would do this." Cleared my throat. "I just figured that with his personality and intelligence, he wouldn't let it go, and he couldn't think of a better way to attack me." Chloe was still smiling. "So, do you need my help?" I shook my head. Chloe had already helped me get revenge for my past life. This time, I had to do it myself. On the way to the office, I idly opened Twitter and saw the top trending topic was about this incident. Hashtag Apex Innovation CEO cheats. Pop star Leo Reed speaks out for sister. Clicking on the hashtag, the first thing I saw was a long post from Leo's own account. It detailed how Sophia had selflessly devoted herself to me and accused me of using her and then casting her aside, painting me as an ungrateful scoundrel and her as a tragic victim. Perhaps out of fear of Chloe, he mentioned I had cheated but didn't name the other person. Reading through it, I felt nothing until I saw comments insulting Chloe. My expression turned cold, and I silently made a note of the user's ID. Chloe glanced at me. "What's wrong?" "Nothing." I turned off my phone and adjusted my expression, just getting a little excited thinking about dealing with Leo later. Chloe looked at me for a long time before finally asking the question that had been buried in her heart. "Did something happen between you and Sophia?" In the blink of an eye, my attitude towards her and Sophia's family had done a complete 180. If my personality and mannerisms hadn't remained the same, she would have suspected I was a different person entirely. She didn't want to investigate me, but this feeling of being in a fog was truly unsettling. I hesitated for a moment. "Yes, but as for what the problem is, I can't tell you just yet. Can you give me some time?" After all, the story of dying tragically twice and being reborn sounded too absurd, not to mention I was from ancient times in my first life. Even though Chloe and I had taken the final step, I didn't have the courage to reveal everything just yet. Chloe wrapped her arms around my waist. "If you don't want to talk about it, then don't." She actually wanted to ask if I would leave her once my issues with Sophia were resolved. She was afraid she was just my rebound, a temporary comfort, a tool to spite Sophia. She was afraid that if everything went back to how it was, she wouldn't be able to stop herself from locking me away. These past 2 days had been the happiest of her life. To be given hope only to have it snatched away would be tantamount to killing her. Once at the office, I pulled up the evidence of Sophia's multiple embezzlements, packaged it, and posted it from the official company account without an extra word. Just then, Sarah knocked and entered, placing a document on my desk. "Mr. Hayes, this is Mr. Morgan's share transfer agreement. It just needs your signature." I looked over the contract and nodded in approval. "Well done." I then signed my name on the signature line. "Get the car ready." Sarah nodded. "Where are you going, Mr. Hayes?" A slight smile touched my lips. As a new shareholder of Starlight, I should naturally go and say hello, get to know everyone. In an office at Starlight Entertainment, Leo Reed watched Apex's falling stock price with a smug smile. "What's so great about being a CEO? Doesn't he know the influence I have in the entertainment industry now? If he dares to act high and mighty in front of me, I'll make his company go bankrupt." His assistant, Joey, handed him a freshly brewed coffee, fawning over him. "You're amazing, Leo. I bet it won't be long before that guy comes crying to you, begging you and Miss Reed to get back together." Leo snorted. "Just because he comes begging, does that mean we have to forgive him? He dared to humiliate me at the company entrance, so I'll make him kneel and apologize to me in front of his entire company." As soon as he finished speaking, the door to the lounge was thrown open with a bang. Sophia walked in, her face dark. "Who told you to post this on Twitter?" Leo was stunned. "Sis, I'm just getting revenge for you. What's with the attitude? After how Ethan treated you, you're still not willing to go after him. Besides, I just want to teach him a lesson. When he can't take it anymore and comes begging, I'll let him off the hook once I'm satisfied." Sophia looked at him as if he were an idiot. "Should I call you naive or just stupid? You think something this small can shake Apex Innovations? But Apex's stock price has already dropped. What about that?" As Leo spoke, he saw the stock price on the computer screen stop falling and then begin to rebound at twice the speed it had dropped. Joey's face changed at that moment too. "Leo, look at Twitter. Quick. What's wrong with Twitter? Isn't everyone still bashing Ethan?" Leo, feeling flustered, grabbed his phone. He saw that several new hashtags were trending. Hashtag the truth behind Leo Reed's sister's resignation. Hashtag parasite siblings get what they deserve. Leo's eyes widened. What is all this? Clicking on one of the hashtags, he saw the sentiment in the comments had completely reversed. Leo Reed has the nerve to post accusations? He should take a look at where all that money went. The only reason he has his status today is because his sister embezzled funds to buy him resources. Leo stared at the flood of negative comments, a chill running down his spine. How could this happen? Didn't Ethan tacitly approve of the embezzlement? How could he dare to use it as evidence to clear his name? Sophia said angrily, "So you do realize this is bad for you? Do you have any idea how much effort and pressure it took for me to get you to this position? And you just go and do this without even asking me." Leo knew he had made a huge mistake. "What do we do now, sis? We can release the fact that Ethan paid back the money for you, to prove he did it willingly and it has nothing to do with us." Sophia's head throbbed with anger. "Shut up. Ethan's clarification has already created a narrative where the public sees him as an endlessly forgiving boyfriend. Even if we release evidence that he covered the debt for us, it will only reinforce his image as a devoted partner, and we'll still be the ones getting attacked. Leo was frantic. Sis, are you abandoning me? I worked so hard to get where I am today. I don't want to leave the entertainment industry. Sophia pinched the bridge of her nose. Her brother's success was the result of her hard work. How could she possibly abandon him? You go post an apology. Say you didn't know about my embezzlement. That should at least protect you. I'm just a private citizen. I'm not afraid of their insults. Leo nodded quickly. Okay, I'll do it right now. But just as he picked up his phone, the lounge door was thrown open again. The assistant to the director of artist management walked in. Mr. Reed, this lounge is no longer assigned to you. Please pack your things and leave immediately. What? This time, not only was Leo stunned, but Sophia's brow also furrowed. What do you mean? What do I mean? The woman in the business suit gave a professional, fake smile. We just received notice from above. Starlight has decided to terminate Leo Reed's contract. With a clatter, Leo's phone fell to the floor. Sophia's face turned deathly pale. Terminate his contract? What are you talking about? Explain yourself. The assistant adjusted her glasses. If you don't believe me, you can go out and ask around. Sophia's chest heaved violently. She was only now realizing that despite such a huge incident, and Leo's not insignificant status among the company's artists, no senior management had come to discuss public relations. So they had already decided to blacklist him? No, this incident wasn't serious enough to warrant blacklisting. With the right PR, as she had suggested, it could have been easily managed. Remembering what the assistant had just said, she strode out of the lounge. Just as she rounded a corner, she saw a group of people huddled together, whispering, "Did you hear? Leo Reed has been blacklisted. Serves him right. No wonder he had such good resources despite having no backing. But he's such an ungrateful jerk. Tell me about it. But is it really serious enough for blacklisting? He's at the peak of his popularity right now and brings in a lot of profit for the company. Why would our boss be willing to blacklist him? I heard a rumor. Apparently, a new shareholder came in and ordered the blacklisting directly." Hearing this, Sophia's steps faltered. A new shareholder? Just as she was wondering who this new shareholder could be, she heard footsteps approaching from behind. Sophia turned her head, and her blood ran cold. A group of Starlight's shareholders and senior executives were walking towards her, surrounding two people. One was the president of Starlight, Frank Miller, and the other was me, the man who had fired her yesterday. Frank Miller clapped his hands to get everyone's attention. Allow me to introduce our company's new board member, Mr. Ethan Hayes. Let's give him a warm welcome. The crowd erupted in applause, exchanging looks of sudden understanding. Just then, someone, clearly enjoying the drama, piped up, "Isn't that Leo Reed's sister and manager, Sophia Reed, up ahead?" At this, all eyes shifted to Sophia, then flickered back and forth between her face and mine. Sophia stared at me intently. "Are you really going to be this ruthless?" Seeing the situation escalating, Frank Miller quickly waved his hand. "All right, everyone disperse. Get back to what you were doing." Although the crowd was eager to watch the drama unfold, no one dared to defy the president's order. In an instant, only Sophia and I were left. Ruthless. I savored the word, finding it amusing. I gave you your original position. Leo's status today is because I promoted him. Now, I'm simply taking back what was mine, returning things to how they were. How is that being ruthless? Sophia took a deep breath. What exactly happened? Ethan, you know what I'm asking. At least let me know the truth before you destroy me. Before I could answer, Leo ran over. Seeing me, his face changed instantly. It was you, wasn't it? The company is shelving me because of you. I sneered. So what if it was? Consumed by hatred, Leo screamed and lunged at me. I'll kill you. Without even blinking, I caught his swinging wrist, twisted it with force, and a sharp crack of bone breaking echoed along with Leo's scream. I tossed him aside like a rag doll. By the time Sophia reacted, Leo was already on the ground. Leo! Sophia rushed to help him up, her gaze towards me bone-chillingly cold. I'll remember what happened today. I hope you don't regret it in the future. With that, she supported Leo and walked away. I watched the siblings retreating backs, my eyes filled with ice. Regret? My only regret was falling for her for 2 lifetimes and failing the one who loved me most, Chloe. But thankfully, I still had a chance to make things right. After leaving Starlight, I made a phone call. When it connected, a slightly slurred voice came from the other end. Who is this? Hearing that voice again still made me uncomfortable. It was Michael Reed. the legitimate heir of the Reed family and Sophia's half-brother. Who is it? If you're not going to talk, I'm hanging up. Michael Reed. I said his name. Michael paused. Who are you? Who I am isn't important. I'm mainly calling to warn you. Be wary of your father's illegitimate daughter. She's been plotting to return to the Reed family and fight you for the inheritance. Michael scoffed dismissively. That pair of siblings? As long as I'm around, they won't even get through the front door of the Reed estate. I wouldn't be so confident, Mr. Reed. In my past life, even with Michael's strong opposition, he couldn't stop Sophia and her family from returning. This time, although she didn't have my help or the capital to attract the patriarch's attention, I knew Sophia. She wouldn't stop until she got what she wanted. Michael might not be her match. What do you mean by that? And who the hell are you? I hung up the phone and blocked the number. I had said my piece. If Michael still didn't take the warning, there was nothing more I could do. If it came down to it, I would have to handle it myself. Across the street from the coffee shop was a private club. The club's second-floor outdoor terrace directly faced the coffee shop's transparent glass wall. Victoria Hamilton was in a meeting with the head of her Miami branch when her gaze inadvertently drifted across the street. Seeing me sitting there, she shot to her feet. The branch head, Mr. Johnson, was taken aback. Is something wrong, Miss Hamilton? Her assistant, Linda, also turned to look at her, instantly on alert. Victoria stared at me, her eyes wide. That man! Mr. Johnson followed her gaze and then smiled. Miss Hamilton, you've been in New York, so you might not know. That's not just any man. Oh! Victoria was no longer in a hurry. She slowly sat back down before asking, how so? Mr. Johnson continued, even if you don't know him, you've probably heard of Apex Innovations, right? Of course. An artificial intelligence company that had appeared out of nowhere during his time, rising meteorically since its inception. In just 3 years, its market had covered most of the globe, making it a leader in the AI field. As someone at the center of the business world, Victoria naturally knew of it. But information about the CEO of Apex was scarce online. There was no name, no photo, only that he was a man, apparently very young, and primarily active in the Miami area. Seeing Victoria's thoughtful expression, Mr. Johnson didn't keep her in suspense any longer. He is the CEO of Apex Innovations. This time, Victoria was truly shocked. What? From Mr. Johnson's words, she had assumed the man held a high position at Apex, but she never imagined he was the CEO. She had thought young meant at least in his 30s, but this man looked to be barely 20. Or did he just look young for his age? If so, perhaps she had been mistaken just now. With this thought, she became a bit distracted. Mr. Johnson, since you know him, do you happen to know his age? Mr. Johnson said enthusiastically, I was just about to tell you, Miss Hamilton. The man is only 19 years old. Seeing Victoria's stunned expression, Mr. Johnson assumed she was just shocked by Ethan's extreme youth and continued with a sigh. He's the same age as my son. But my son is still a senior in high school, struggling with basic calculus, while he's already the CEO of a publicly traded company. The comparison is just infuriating. Victoria felt her heart pounding so hard it might burst from her chest. Her voice was dry when she spoke. You said he's 19? Mr. Johnson chuckled. I know. It's hard to believe, isn't it, Miss Hamilton? We middle-aged folks don't like to admit we're being outdone by a kid who just came of age, but after a few years in Miami, you have to accept it. Don't let his youth fool you. In the business world, he's no less formidable than us veterans. Victoria had to exert all her self-control to keep from losing her composure. She picked up a pen, signed the document, and then, as if shooing him away, said to Mr. Johnson, I've approved this project. Don't disappoint me, Mr. Johnson. Of course, I will do my utmost. Mr. Johnson took the approved document with both hands, assuring her while also extending an invitation. I've also prepared a banquet for you, Miss Hamilton. You must do me the honor of attending. Linda thought to herself how clueless this man was. Couldn't he see her boss was on the verge of jumping out of her seat? Mr. Johnson might not know, but having been with Victoria for so long, Linda had guessed the reason for her reaction right away. Come to think of it, the boy's eyes really did resemble her own mother's when she was young. Thinking this, she stepped forward to decline. Miss Hamilton has never been fond of such social engagements. Doing your job well is more important than anything. Besides, she has other matters to attend to, so you should head back first. After Mr. Johnson left, Victoria immediately headed downstairs, not even waiting for the elevator. But when she got out of the club, she saw that the spot where I had been sitting was empty. I was already gone. Linda was also dumbfounded. Miss Hamilton, should we go to his company? A cool summer breeze blew, and some of Victoria's rationality returned. Her beautiful eyes stared in the direction of the coffee shop for a moment before she spoke slowly. Call and make an appointment first. Also, run a background check on him, his personal information and his history for the past 19 years. I want every detail. In a hospital room on the other side of town, Leo was crying breathlessly. Sis, look how ruthless Ethan was. I feel like my hand is completely ruined. Sophia was also extremely frustrated, but she still pulled him into a comforting embrace. The doctor said it's just a minor fracture. If you're careful with your diet, it will heal in time. Leo continued to sob. But are we just going to let this go? Sophia gritted her teeth. Of course we're not just going to let this go. Once we're back with the Reed family, anyone who has ever humiliated us will pay the price. Leo looked up at her. But now you don't have Apex as leverage, and I've been blacklisted by my agency. With Michael Reed blocking our way, will Dad even accept us? Sophia said dismissively, did you think I wouldn't leave myself a backup plan? This path is blocked, but we still have the option of a strategic marriage. A strategic marriage? Leo's mouth fell open. Then, a thought struck him and his eyes lit up. You're still in contact with Carter, aren't you? Carter Vance, the sole heir of the Vance family in New York. Sophia had gotten close to him when she was in the city. If it weren't for the Vance patriarch looking down on her status, and her meeting me, a better and more willing stepping stone, she wouldn't have given up on Carter to come to me. Even though she had chosen Ethan, she had always maintained contact with Carter. Thanks to her careful manipulation, he had always believed it was his father who had broken them up, so he didn't resent her and even felt guilty about it. Now that I had abandoned her, she no longer had any reason to hide it. Yes, we're still in touch. Once I can persuade his father, we'll get married. Leo was overjoyed. That's great. The Vance and Reed families are a good match, and Carter is the sole heir. If you two get married and Dad finds out, he might even invite us back to the family himself. Then his expression darkened. Sis, you should never have given up on Carter in the first place. Even though the Vances are only ranked 8th among the great families of New York, they're still an old money family with a long history and a stable foundation. Apex looks good now, but how long can such a young company stay on top? Besides, he's just some nobody from an orphanage. Even if he manages to claw his way into high society, people will still look down on him. Does he think getting with Chloe Collins will make him one of them? Even the Vances care about background. Hearing Leo's words, Sophia's gloomy mood from the past 2 days finally lifted a little. She pulled out a few tissues and handed them to him. Wipe your tear-stained face. Carter will be here soon. Don't let him see you looking like a mess. Leo took the tissues, stunned. Carter's coming? Isn't he in New York? Why would he suddenly come here? Sophia explained, old Mr. Peterson in Miami is celebrating his 80th birthday. The Vances and the Petersons are related, so he's here for a visit. Meanwhile, in a luxurious reception room, seeing the woman who walked in, Chloe waved for Jessica to go and make coffee. Well, look who it is, Victoria. What brings you to Miami all of a sudden? Victoria tossed her car keys onto the coffee table and sat down on the sofa opposite Chloe, making herself at home as if it were her own house. I was about to ask you the same thing. Why are you staying in Miami for so long? Chloe raised an eyebrow. You don't seem like the type to be so nosy. Victoria's expression remained indifferent, but her tone was familiar. I have 2 other sisters at home. I can't be bothered with you. It was Aunt Susan who asked me to pass on a message. She said if you don't come back soon, she's going to come down here herself. She paused, a playful smile on her lips. To see what kind of man has you so captivated. Chloe nearly choked. Victoria paid little mind to Chloe's reaction and returned to her original point. I'm here to review and approve a project. Also, she sat up a little straighter, a new light shining in her eyes. I think I've found my brother. Hearing this, Chloe's smile vanished. Are you sure? Have you done a DNA test? Victoria's crossed hands fidgeted unconsciously. Not yet, but I have a gut feeling that it's him. You know, that kind of psychic connection? With all the other potential candidates we found before, including those who looked a lot like my mom and were trying to impersonate him, I've never felt this way. Chloe was confused. Then what are you hesitating for? Instead of taking him for a DNA test, you came here? Is passing on a message from my mom more important than finding your brother? Of course not. Since it wasn't confirmed, she didn't explicitly say that the person might be the CEO of Apex. And the more she felt it was true, the more nervous she became about uncovering the truth. Chloe seemed to guess her state of mind and didn't press further. Just then, Jessica came over with 2 cups of coffee. Chloe took a sip and asked casually, if you find your brother, he should be around my age, right? Victoria nodded. He was born 6 months after you. Just as Chloe was about to ask for the birth date, the previously pleasant Victoria's expression changed in an instant. Don't you even think about my brother. Even if you're the same age and from similar families, it's a no-go. My brother was taken from us at birth. Now that we've finally found him, I'm not letting him even think about marriage until I've spoiled him rotten. Chloe looked at Victoria, who had suddenly become hostile towards her, and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. You're not even sure if he's your brother yet, and you're already this protective? Thrown off by this, she couldn't be bothered to ask about the birth date anymore and quickly tried to distance herself. Besides, I already have a boyfriend. Victoria was surprised to hear this. Before she could ask for details, she received a text message from Linda. With news about her brother, she instantly lost interest in Chloe's love life. I've delivered Aunt Susan's message. If there's nothing else, I'll be going. Without giving Chloe a chance to see her out, Victoria got into a black sedan parked by the curb. Linda, in the driver's seat, handed her a thin file. Miss Hamilton, according to our investigation, the young man's name is Ethan Hayes, age 19, but his date of birth is unknown. He has no parents and was taken in by the Southridge orphanage before the age of 5. We couldn't find any other information. Hearing that I was an orphan with no parents, Victoria felt a mix of excitement and heartache. She was excited because the possibility of me being her brother was even greater, but her heart ached thinking of the hardships I must have endured as a child. But why can't we find any other information? While the Hamilton family wasn't a top-tier international intelligence agency, with their power and status on par with the Collins family, they should have been able to find someone's complete history. Linda shook her head. I'm sorry, I couldn't. But Mr. Hayes's information is as if it's been deliberately erased, leaving only these superficial details. We can't find anything else. Victoria looked thoughtfully at the file and gave a quiet order. Place an order with Division 7. She then glanced at her watch. What's the status of the meeting you were supposed to schedule? Linda replied, it's all set, 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. Victoria nodded. She was about to say something else when Linda exclaimed, Miss Hamilton, Division 7 rejected our request. Victoria looked up at her. Why did they reject it? You didn't go through Nightfall, did you? Nightfall, one of the core members of Division 7, was also the most mysterious and unpredictable, known for taking jobs based on his mood. No, I submitted it directly through the official website, and it was rejected almost immediately. The confusion in Victoria's eyes deepened. Then we'll hold off on the investigation for now. The most important thing is to first confirm whether Ethan is really my brother. In the CEO's office at Apex Innovations, I was wearing a uniquely shaped earpiece, listening to the chatter of 7, one of the 4 elders of Division 7. That Hamilton girl from New York was looking into you. I rejected the request. Any reward for me? I lowered my voice. No, so heartless. But do you have some history with her? Why is she investigating you? Do you need Division 7 to send someone to help? No need. Hanging up. I cut the connection, leaving 7 to fume on the other side of the world. After shutting down my computer, I called Sarah into my office. Get the car ready. Sarah glanced at the clock, noting it wasn't yet the end of the workday. Mr. Hayes, aren't you waiting for Miss Collins to pick you up? Since her boss and Chloe got together, she found her driving duties had significantly decreased. Chloe handled all the commuting. I retorted, why should I wait for her to pick me up? Can't I go and pick her up from work? Chloe, planning her time, left work early, intending to pick me up just like yesterday. But as soon as she walked out of her company building, she saw a luxury car parked at the entrance. Miss Collins, doesn't that look a lot like Mr. Hayes's car? Jessica was still wondering when the rear passenger window rolled down. It really is Mr. Hayes. Jessica's mouth fell open. Mr. Hayes, what are you doing here? I rested my elbow on the window frame, a smile playing on my lips as I looked at Chloe. What else would I be doing here at this time? I'm here to pick up your boss from work, of course. Chloe lowered her head with a small smile, her long eyelashes casting a delicate shadow as the evening sun danced in them, creating a dreamlike beauty. My heart gave a pathetic, hard thump. I thought to myself, if it hadn't been for Sophia, I probably would have fallen for this captivating beauty in my past life. I gave a slight cough to cover my reaction and tapped my finger on the window frame. Get in. Chloe murmured her assent. Just as she opened the door, she heard Jessica call out, Miss Collins, do you know what you look like right now? Chloe's eyes narrowed. Jessica's heart trembled, but she bravely continued, like a blushing bride about to step into her wedding carriage. Sarah and I both burst out laughing. Compared to Jessica's bold behavior, I felt I was quite good at managing my subordinates. Chloe beckoned to Jessica with her finger. Come here. Jessica cleverly switched tactics and clung to my leg. Mr. Hayes, save me. A sinister smile played on Chloe's lips. It seems you don't plan on going home. With that, she ignored her and ducked into the car. Seeing Chloe in the car, Sarah started the engine and asked, Mr. Hayes, are we heading to Royal Gardens? She didn't yet know they were living together and just assumed it was a simple pickup. This time, I turned to Chloe, asking for her opinion with my eyes. But before Chloe could say anything, Jessica piped up again. Sarah, you just don't get it, do you? With Miss Collins and Mr. Hayes' relationship now, it doesn't matter where you take them. It's just a change of scenery. Chloe raised an eyebrow but didn't argue this time. Sarah, however, looked confused, only setting the destination after I instructed, to Royal Gardens. Before driving off, she glanced back at Jessica. Are you sure you're not coming with us, Miss Jones? No need. I still have to drive Miss Collins's car. Jessica waved her hand, and then, a thought seemed to strike her. Her gaze towards Sarah turned gleeful. What goes around comes around. Today, Sarah, you get to experience what I go through. She then turned and walked away, not giving Sarah a chance to ask what she meant. Sarah was indeed confused, but she quickly understood Jessica's meaning. Hearing the intimate sounds from the back seat, she couldn't help but think that she had also driven her boss and Sophia, but had never seen them kiss. It seemed Sophia really was just an anomaly. Just then, a ringing phone shattered the intimate atmosphere in the back. Panting, I gently pushed an impassioned Chloe away, picked up my phone, and glanced at the caller ID. What's up, Lily? There was a moment of silence on the other end, then a distinctly youthful, girlish voice said, Ethan. I grunted in acknowledgement. Are you doing okay over there? Chloe couldn't help but glance at me several times. She knew I had a sister, the daughter of the director of the orphanage that had taken me in, but she had never seen how we interacted. She didn't know I would be like this with her. As if all my sharp edges and masks had been put away, my voice filled with tenderness. Though she didn't want to admit it, she couldn't help but feel a pang of jealousy. Lily had no idea that because of her, her future sister-in-law was already feeling possessive. I'm fine over here. I just wanted to ask, did you and Sophia break up? I hummed in confirmation. You saw it on Twitter? Lily's voice was filled with an unmistakable sense of relief and joy. Ethan, you finally see the light. Hearing her relieved tone, I felt a wave of shame, a problem that my assistant and my sister could both see clearly. How could I not understand it? It was just that because of our life and death promise in the first life, even knowing that the Sophia of the second life was using me, I never gave up, always thinking things would be fine once she regained her memories. Do you have a new girlfriend now? Lily's voice pulled me back from my thoughts. I hummed in agreement, glanced at Chloe, and replied with a smile, I'll bring her to meet you when I have time. After I spoke, there was a long silence from Lily's end. Just as I was about to think the call had dropped, she spoke again, her voice hesitant. Ethan, is she in Miami too? I'll fly over tonight to check her out for you. I instinctively asked back, don't you have a competition? Then I guessed her worry and didn't know whether to laugh or cry. She's the one for me. You don't need to worry. What if that makes me more worried? You just broke up with Sophia and you're already so sure about this person. And with that, she hung up. After hanging up, I turned to look at Chloe. You don't have anything to say? I had clearly sensed a shift in her mood when I first answered the phone. Chloe's petty feelings had vanished the moment I said I would introduce her to Lily. Hearing my question now, she asked, Ethan, am I the one for you? I reached out and hugged her back. Yes. Chloe looked at me, her face radiant with happiness. That's all I need to hear. The next day, I was working in my office as usual. At 10 o'clock sharp, there was a knock on the door. Come in. The door clicked open, and Victoria Hamilton walked in with Linda. The moment I saw Victoria, the corner of my mouth twitched. She was clearly meticulously dressed. Anyone who knew would say it was a meeting between two company heads. Anyone who didn't would think she was here for a blind date. I was familiar with the Hamilton heiress, the leader of the New York Hamilton family, who had a single mother known for being a powerhouse. And this Miss Hamilton had perfectly inherited all of her mother's qualities. But rumor had it she was cold and aloof, and certainly not one to spend much time on her appearance. What was this all about? If I hadn't met her in my past life, I would have thought it was someone else. Seeing my reaction, Linda's heart sank. Had she overdone it? She remembered that morning. Her boss had insisted on dressing up to meet her brother. Despite Linda repeatedly emphasizing that the DNA test hadn't been done and this might not be her brother, her boss had spent 3 hours trying on clothes in front of the mirror, dissatisfied with everything. In the end, Linda had to make the decision and pick out this outfit for her indecisive boss. And now it seemed to have backfired. I was the one to break the silence. Miss Hamilton, an honor to have you here. As soon as I spoke, Linda saw her boss stumble slightly and couldn't bear to watch. Having been with her for so long, she knew her boss was obsessed with her brother, almost to the point of madness. Victoria, unaware of what her subordinate was thinking, lit up with surprise upon hearing my voice. You know me? Linda understood perfectly. In front of her potential brother, her boss's IQ dropped to 0. I found Victoria's attitude a bit strange. Miss Hamilton, your face is on the cover of various financial magazines so often, it would be hard not to recognize you. Victoria regained some of her composure. You're too kind, Mr. Hayes. It is you who is truly accomplished, founding Apex at such a young age and leading the latest in AI technology to the global stage. It's I who should be humbled. Had this turned into a session of mutual business flattery? I gave a slight smile, stood up, and walked towards the reception sofa. Please, Miss Hamilton, don't be so formal. Have a seat. Sarah, please get some coffee. Sarah nodded and, before leaving, gave Victoria a curious glance. Once we were seated opposite each other, I got straight to the point. Miss Hamilton, what can I do for you? As far as I know, the Hamilton family's businesses don't involve artificial intelligence. Or are you planning to expand into this field? Victoria smiled. If I said yes, would you be willing to grant me that honor, Mr. Hayes? I thought for a moment. The Hamilton family was a massive enterprise, and I knew a thing or two about Victoria's business style. As long as it wasn't a hostile takeover, a partnership with them would be a guaranteed win for me. I tapped my index finger on the armrest twice. Then what kind of partnership are you interested in, Miss Hamilton? Production or? Victoria answered immediately, investment. I was taken aback. Just investment? Yes. What do you think, Mr. Hayes? I was instantly on guard. The shareholding in Apex was already quite balanced. A small stake wouldn't be of interest to the Hamiltons. Victoria, realizing I had misunderstood, quickly clarified, the Hamiltons will only invest. We don't want any shares in Apex. She actually wanted to say that dividends didn't matter either, but she held back, afraid of making me more suspicious. Now I was truly surprised. It wasn't unheard of to invest without taking equity, but was giving away free money really the Hamilton style? No matter how upright Victoria was, she wasn't known for her philanthropy, was she? Thinking this, I asked her directly. Victoria thought to herself, no wonder he reached this position at such a young age. If Linda knew what her boss was thinking, she would have shaken her and yelled, "Wake up! He's not your brother yet. What are you so proud of? If you're worried, Mr. Hayes, I can sign a guarantee." I cut her off. Wait, can I ask why? Because you're my brother, and I'm willing to give you money. Of course, Victoria couldn't say what she was really thinking. Since its founding, Apex's social standing has been steadily rising. The Hamiltons may have missed the best opportunity, but we'd still like to get a piece of the pie now. Would you be willing to give me that chance, Mr. Hayes? I was silent for a long time before saying cautiously, I can't just take advantage of you. You should look at the company's performance overview before making a decision. With that, I looked at Sarah, who was walking in with the coffee. Bring me the company's recent development summary. Sarah nodded. After taking the file from Sarah, I was about to hand it to Victoria when she stood up, walked around the coffee table, and sat down next to me, as if she intended to look at it with me. Since you're being so considerate, Mr. Hayes, it would be rude of me to refuse. I stiffened. The strange feeling I'd had since she arrived intensified. Did she really need to sit next to me to look at a file? What was wrong with this woman? Victoria pointed to a section. Mr. Hayes, could you explain this part to me? I don't quite understand. I suppressed my unease and looked down at where she was pointing. While my attention was diverted, Victoria quietly raised her other hand and reached for my hair. From Sarah's angle, she couldn't see Victoria's subtle movement behind me, but Linda had a clear view. Her heart leaped into her throat along with Victoria's hand. Just as she was about to succeed, it was as if I had eyes in the back of my head. I spun around, grabbing her wrist, my earlier affability replaced by a flash of anger. Miss Hamilton, please have some self-respect. Victoria froze, not expecting me to be so sharp. Linda couldn't bear to watch the disastrous scene. Her boss, always so upright and honorable, had failed on her very first attempt at such a shady act. Since she had been caught, Victoria dropped the pretense. You've misunderstood, Mr. Hayes. It's just that you bear a strong resemblance to my long-lost brother. I was trying to get a hair sample for verification. I apologize for not explaining beforehand. I was stunned. I had rarely delved into the details of my origins in this modern life. I only remembered being snatched away by a man in a black ski mask right after I was born. After a long car ride, Once he was sure he had shaken off his pursuers. The man whose face I couldn't see covered my nose and mouth, trying to suffocate me. The man probably never imagined that a newborn could have the mind of an adult, knowing how to hold its breath and play dead. When he felt the baby's struggles cease and its breathing stop, he tossed me into the bushes by the roadside. I waited quietly for the kidnappers to leave. When I sensed a passerby, I started crying loudly to attract attention, and that's when I was found by the woman who would later become the director of the orphanage that raised me. Looking back, if I hadn't been born with the memories of my 2 previous lives and been able to cleverly protect myself at that critical moment, I would have died at birth in this life. I don't blame my family in this life for not protecting me. After all, no one could have anticipated something like that happening. But because I needed to find Sophia, and I was afraid that being a child under the care of relatives would make it inconvenient to act with an adult mind, I never considered searching for my family. I just never expected that 19 years later, a potential relative would come looking for me. After that brief recollection, I didn't respond to Victoria's apology. Instead, I asked another question. So, you investigated my background for this reason as well? Victoria was stunned again. You knew. Do you underestimate me that much, Miss Hamilton? I smiled. If I couldn't even detect someone digging into my past, I should probably just hand over my position as CEO. Victoria felt a mix of shame and relief. Seeing that I wasn't angry, she apologized again and then made her request directly. Since you already know, Mr. Hayes, would you be willing to do a DNA test with me? Sarah heard this as she walked in with the coffee. As she set it down, her eyes darted back and forth between her boss's face and Victoria's. She wasn't sure if it was just her imagination, but they did seem to resemble each other. My gaze fell on the swirling surface of the coffee as I tapped my fingers on the armrest. Seeing me hesitate, Victoria grew anxious. Mr. Hayes, our entire family is heartbroken and filled with guilt over my little brother's disappearance. But so much happened so suddenly back then. Not only was my newborn brother kidnapped, but our father also vanished. On top of that, a host of relatives and shareholders tried to take advantage of the chaos. My mother almost didn't make it through childbirth. All these years, we've been searching for him. Even knowing the odds were against him after being taken under those circumstances, we never gave up. If you really are my brother, can you give us a chance? We know you must have suffered a lot, and we will do everything to make it up to you. By the end, her voice was pleading. It's true, Mr. Hayes, Linda added. The 3 sisters have been nearly driven mad with worry for their brother. And Mrs. Hamilton, though she's usually quiet, often spends entire days in the room she prepared for the young master. They all hope every day for a reunion. I looked at Victoria's almost begging eyes, my expression a little unnatural. Besides Chloe, I had never seen such a proud, powerful woman act so humbly in front of me. I could easily handle those who were cold and calculating, but this was different. Well, I might not be your brother. You don't have to speak to me like this. As I spoke, I reached up, pulled out a few strands of hair with the roots intact, and handed them to Victoria. I have other things to do this afternoon. If you want to do a DNA test, you can go ahead on your own. Seeing this, Sarah reminded me with concern. Mr. Hayes, aren't you going with them? If you just hand over your hair like that, aren't you worried someone might use it for other purposes? With Victoria present, she didn't say the rest, but her meaning was clear. Before Victoria could speak, I looked up and replied, that's why I'm giving you a task. You will accompany Miss Hamilton for the DNA test. You don't need to follow me. Sarah finally relaxed. Yes, sir. Victoria wasn't offended by our conversation. In fact, she was pleased by my cautiousness. She took the hair I offered with great care, sealed it in a sterile bag she had prepared, and then gave me a deep look. Without calling me Mr. Hayes, she said, I'll come find you as soon as the DNA test results are out. Wait, I pushed the partnership proposal back to her. Since your purpose here wasn't business, take this with you. Now Victoria was genuinely embarrassed. Actually, we could still. I raised a hand to cut her off. I've looked at this proposal. It's basically just you giving me money. Since we're not even sure if I'm your brother yet, I'm not going to take advantage of you. Take it. Seeing my firm stance, Victoria swallowed her words, motioned for Linda to take the proposal, and then extended a hand towards Sarah. Please. Oh no, after you, Miss Hamilton. Sarah was nearly scared to death by Victoria's gesture. Setting aside Victoria's esteemed status, even if the DNA test proved they were related, she would be her boss's sister. How could she dare to walk ahead of her? Victoria said no more and led the way out. Her steps were still steady and composed, but Linda, who knew her well, could detect a hint of urgency. Outside the company, Victoria got into her car while pulling out her phone to make a call. In New York, at the Hamilton estate, Eleanor Hamilton was in her study handling business. When she received Victoria's call and heard that she might have found her son, she shot to her feet excitedly. "I'm coming to Miami right now," Victoria quickly interjected. "It's not confirmed yet. Mom, just have a hair sample flown over. I'm worried a test with just mine won't be accurate enough." The butler, Mr. Anderson, also tried to calm her. "Madam, please don't get too excited. This isn't the first time we've found someone who might be the young master. Your health is what's most important." Eleanor slowly sat back down. Remembering the repeated cycles of hope and disappointment, her eyes misted over. "No matter what, I hope this time it's real. It's been 19 years. I haven't had a single peaceful night's sleep, always afraid that something happened to him, or that he's already gone. I don't know how many more 19 years I have left to wait." Eleanor didn't dwell on her sorrow. She quickly pulled out a few strands of her hair, sealed them in a bag with practiced ease, and ordered, "Mr. Anderson, get the helicopter ready immediately. We need to send this sample over." I had no idea that my situation had thrown the Hamilton household into chaos again. To be honest, even though I had agreed to the DNA test, I wasn't personally too concerned about the outcome. With my current social standing, I could live perfectly well without relatives. Besides, Chloe had said her parents didn't care about background, so there was nothing standing in our way. Pushing these thoughts aside, I took out the invitation from the Peterson family that I had received a few days ago and made a call. Before long, a blonde, blue-eyed woman wearing sunglasses walked in, carrying several shopping bags. "Darling, did you miss me?" I glanced at her. "Cut the crap and give me the clothes and shoes." The woman wasn't annoyed at all. Instead, she grinned. "As you wish." The woman before me was none other than Diana, the internationally renowned stylist known as the Hand of God, who currently worked at Starlight Entertainment. As the godmother of entertainment styling, even A-list celebrities had to wait in line for her services, and even then, it depended on her mood. Yet, for me, she was always available. While I was in the changing room putting on my suit, Diana munched on an apple and said indistinctly, "I just got back from a business trip and heard you became a shareholder in our company. What? Are you planning to be my sugar daddy now?" I ignored her. Diana didn't mind and continued talking to herself. "I heard you broke up with Miss Reed? Congratulations. So, are you going to consider me next?" I shot her a look. "I already have a girlfriend, thank you." Diana acted as if she had discovered a huge secret. "You really cheated? I thought that idiot Leo was just slandering you." "Well done. So who's the new girlfriend?" "Enough joking around." I walked to my desk and sat down. "Can we start on the styling now?" Diana gently traced my cheek with her right hand and smiled. "Coming right up." Meanwhile, Chloe glanced at the time, about to call me, when her office door was pushed open. Jessica poked her head in. "Miss Collins, Mr. Hayes is here." Chloe assumed I was there to pick her up again, but Jessica's expression seemed off. "What's with that face?" Her voice trailed off the moment she saw me step through the door. My handsome styling made her breath catch, and she stared at me, speechless, for a long moment. I walked to her side and leaned on her desk with both hands. "Cat got your tongue." Chloe closed her eyes, her chest rising and falling rapidly. She blushed and asked, "Where are you going?" I was a bit surprised. "Didn't you get an invitation from the Peterson family?" "I did, but..." She paused, then pressed the intercom and ordered, "Postpone tonight's conference call to tomorrow." Jessica exclaimed, "Miss Collins, that's an international conference call. We've been preparing for it for over a month." Chloe was about to say more, but I cut her off. "If you have work, you don't have to go." I wasn't keen on attending this kind of banquet anyway, but Mr. Peterson helped me out when I was starting the company, so I have to show him some respect. Chloe's tone was tinged with jealousy. "You're going to a banquet all by yourself, looking this handsome? You'll have all the heiresses swooning." "I'm going with you." I glanced at her. "Don't be willful." Chloe grabbed my finger and bit it playfully, though not hard enough to hurt. "I'll come find you after my meeting. Call me if anything happens." Night fell, and the city lights began to glow. A steady stream of luxury cars pulled up to the Peterson residence. Mr. Peterson and his son stood at the entrance with smiles, greeting each arriving guest. When I arrived, the bustling entrance suddenly fell silent, replaced by a series of sharp intakes of breath. Mr. Peterson was also taken aback when he saw me, then he pulled his son forward. Usually, all the focus is on Mr. Hayes' capabilities and charisma. Only today do I realize his looks are just as impressive as his skills. "Dressed like this, you put Hollywood stars to shame." I handed him the gift I had prepared. "You're too kind, Mr. Peterson. Just having you here is an honor, Mr. Hayes. You didn't need to bring a gift." Mr. Peterson said with a gentle chiding, but he cheerfully accepted the gift box and handed it to a butler. I offered a slight smile. It's my pleasure. Dylan, this is the young man I'm always telling you about. Mr. Peterson pushed his son, Dylan, forward. He's only 19 and he's already the CEO of a public company. In the business world, he's even more formidable than your old man. Look at you, you're almost 19, and you can't even crack the top 500 in your class. All you do is fool around. I don't expect you to be as amazing as Mr. Hayes. If you were even a fraction as capable, I could worry a little less. I know. You say it 100 times a day. Aren't you tired of it? Dylan slapped his father's hand away and shot me an annoyed glance. You can greet the guests yourself. I'm going to find my cousin. This kid. Mr. Peterson watched Dylan run off, fuming, then turned back to me with an apologetic smile. My apologies, Mr. Hayes. I've spoiled him. I'll be sure to give him a good talking to when I get home. I felt a headache coming on. I knew Mr. Peterson meant no harm. He just had the common parental habit of comparing children. But it had inadvertently made me an object of resentment. And from what Dylan said, this wasn't the first time his father had lectured him like this. Your method of parenting might be a bit misguided, Mr. Peterson. Everyone has their own path. Don't push your son too hard. Yes, you're right, Mr. Hayes. Mr. Peterson beckoned a waiter over. Please, Mr. Hayes, head inside. I nodded and followed the waiter. Inside the banquet hall, Dylan jogged back and made a beeline for Carter Vance. Cousin, Carter caught him. Weren't you and your dad greeting guests outside? Why did you run back in? Dylan said irritably, It's because I ran into that guy. It's one thing for my dad to say it at home, but he had to compare us right in front of him. It's so annoying. Carter looked puzzled. What guy? That CEO of Apex, what's his name, Ethan Hayes. Dylan pouted. Does this guy have something against me? I feel like I'm constantly living in his shadow. As soon as he spoke, Carter and the nearby Reed siblings all changed their expressions. Ethan Hayes. Leo looked consumed with hatred. He's here too. Yeah, Dylan nodded. My dad practically worships him. Of course he was going to invite him. Seeing Carter's expression change, Sophia quickly took his hand and soothed him. Don't take it to heart. Just pretend he's invisible. My heart is only with you. Just as she finished speaking, a wave of gasps and exclamations went through the crowd. Sophia instinctively turned her head, and upon seeing me walking towards them, she froze on the spot. She had always known I was handsome, but she never imagined I could look this good. Leo tugged at her arm sharply. Sis! Sophia snapped back to reality and quickly averted her gaze, but she couldn't stop herself from sneaking glances at me from the corner of her eye. Seeing her distracted state, Carter gritted his teeth, his eyes towards me filled with gloom. After the initial shock of my appearance wore off, many entrepreneurs came forward with champagne glasses to greet me. High society banquets were, to some extent, networking events for business magnates. Due to my company's leading position in Miami and the fact that I rarely appeared at such events, I was quickly surrounded by guests. Dylan looked at me, the center of attention, and then at the neglected Carter. He couldn't help but step forward to defend him. Anyone who knows would think this is my grandfather's birthday party. Anyone who doesn't would think it's Mr. Hayes's personal gala. Stealing the spotlight the moment you arrive. Are you disrespecting the Peterson family, or do you just love showing off? He deliberately raised his voice, causing the entire banquet hall to fall silent. The people surrounding me turned their heads, wondering what Dylan was up to. Just then, someone remarked, Isn't that Director Reed from Apex? The comment sent ripples through the crowd. My relationship with Sophia was no secret among Miami's elite, especially after the huge drama on Twitter yesterday. A love for gossip is human nature, and even the wealthy are not immune. In an instant, everyone's eyes were darting between me and Sophia. A young man standing next to me couldn't resist retorting, Director, didn't you see Twitter yesterday? She's already been kicked out by Mr. Hayes. Humiliated in public, Sophia's face turned cold, and any lingering affection she had felt for me vanished. Leo, who couldn't stand seeing his sister insulted, put an arm around Carter's shoulder and shot back, We should thank Mr. Hayes for not marrying her. Otherwise, how could my sister and Carter have gotten back together? His action and words drew everyone's attention to Carter. Someone couldn't help but ask curiously, And who is this? You mean my cousin? Dylan immediately stepped forward to introduce him. This is Carter Vance, from the Vance family of New York. The Vance family, one of the 10 great families of New York? Someone exclaimed. Who else? Dylan gave the person a look that said, Obviously. And you all probably don't know, my cousin's fiancée is also from one of New York's great families, a daughter of the Reeds. They're a match made in heaven. So what if someone else is capable? He's still just an orphan with no parents. My fingers tightened around my champagne glass. I looked at the group opposite me, raised my glass with a smile and said, Miss Reed is indeed a good match for Mr. Vance. After all, an illegitimate daughter is still a Reed. As soon as I spoke, a wave of murmurs went through the hall. The elite cared most about bloodlines. The difference between a legitimate and illegitimate child was like heaven and earth. Being illegitimate was looked down upon even more than being an orphan with unknown parents. They had been wondering why, if Sophia was a Reed, she would be working for me. Now it all made sense. Sophia looked as if she had been slapped. How could you? The curve of my lips widened. Am I wrong? Leo, his eyes red, was about to charge at me but was held back by Dylan. He was, after all, still mindful that this was his family's party and didn't want things to get out of control. After all, his father was still outside. Mr. Hayes, slandering an ex is not a sign of good character. Carter stepped forward with an air of magnanimity. I know you're not over Sophia, but since you two have separated, you should leave each other with a little dignity, don't you think? Mr. Vance, you truly live up to your family's reputation. Your composure is admirable. My smile didn't falter. But if I recall correctly, I haven't initiated any trouble since I arrived. When Mr. Peterson was fighting your battles and insulting me, what were you doing? Why didn't you remind him to maintain his good character? Carter's face stiffened. That's enough. Dylan shielded Carter. I think being a CEO is a waste of your talents, Mr. Hayes. With a mouth like that, you could be a stand-up comedian. But don't you think you look a bit like you're lashing out in anger? Or is it like my cousin said, you still have feelings for my future sister-in-law? Then, as if a thought struck him, he tapped his chin. I heard you have a new girlfriend, Mr. Hayes. Why didn't you bring her this time? Dylan assumed my so-called girlfriend was either fake or far inferior to Sophia, and he cleverly waited for me to be embarrassed, not noticing the sudden change in the Reed siblings' expressions. I looked at Dylan with a half-smile, pretending not to understand the implication. She had something to do and couldn't make it. Couldn't make it? Or couldn't be shown in public? My ambiguous attitude only fueled Dylan's arrogance. Even a busy man like you could find the time, but your new flame couldn't? Couldn't be shown in public? I savored the phrase and couldn't help but laugh. It seems you know more about my girlfriend's status than I do, Mr. Peterson. Stop pretending. If she's presentable, then bring her here. My laughter annoyed Dylan, and he dropped the pretense. I heard you used to take Sophia everywhere. Why are you hiding your new girlfriend now? Even if my future sister-in-law is illegitimate, she's still from a great family. Don't tell me you were so heartbroken that you've started to lower your standards. As he spoke, everyone in the room turned to look at me. Having watched the drama unfold, they were also curious about my new girlfriend, especially since my behavior did seem a bit secretive. Just then, the sound of high heels clicking on the floor came from the entrance, accompanied by a woman's voice, holding back laughter. Miss, someone just said that Mr. Hayes is lowering his standards by being with you. Hearing this voice, most of the guests were stunned, while the Reed siblings turned pale. Chloe walked up to me as if no one else existed, took my arm, and said with a pitiful expression, "You're being provoked like this and you still won't even mention my name. Am I really that unpresentable?" I stared at her, stunned. "Why are you here so early? Is your meeting over?" Chloe glanced at the crowd. "The meeting can be postponed. If my boyfriend is being bullied, I'm afraid I might not be able to control myself and end up burying everyone here." If anyone else had said that, the crowd would have scoffed. But this was Chloe Collins. The moment Chloe walked in, the guests were unsettled. Since she was managing her family's branch in the city, most of the business owners present had seen her face before. But who could have told them that the girlfriend they thought Ethan was hiding was Chloe Collins? And her attitude towards him was simply jaw-dropping. After a long silence, the hall erupted. Mr. Hayes' girlfriend is Chloe Collins. He really kept that under wraps. I thought someone like Miss Collins would be aloof even in a relationship, but look at her attitude with Mr. Hayes. And Dylan Peterson just said he was lowering his standards and his girlfriend was unpresentable. This is hilarious. Can an illegitimate daughter of the Reeds even compare to the heiress of the Collins family? Sophia, being compared, looked beyond awful, but she couldn't say a single word in her defense. Before, she could use my affection for her to act superior in front of Chloe. Now, without me, she realized she was nothing in her presence. Dylan's face was also a mixture of green and white, but mostly filled with disbelief. Even more shocked than him was Carter Vance, who had been quiet for a while. Outsiders only knew of the 10 great families of New York, but no one understood what the Collins family represented better than him, someone who grew up in that world. The higher a family was ranked, the greater the gap between them and the rest. Among the 10 families, only the Hamiltons could compete with the Collinses. Even the third-ranked Kennedy family was leagues below those two. Moreover, Chloe was the cherished, late-born daughter of the Collins patriarch, doted on by the entire family. A person like that was someone he wouldn't even dare to dream of. While everyone was lost in their own thoughts, Leo suddenly let out a cold laugh. You don't really think just being together means they'll get a happy ending, do you? The guests were taken aback and all turned to look at me. Even the Vance family cares about a daughter-in-law's background. You think the Collins family, the #1 family, doesn't care about lineage? Leo looked at me sarcastically and continued, You think the Collins family would accept someone from an orphanage? At his words, many in the crowd silently agreed, though few dared to show it with Chloe and me present. Only the fearless Dylan chimed in, Exactly. You should know your place. What's the point of winning her over if her parents don't approve? You'll never be part of the family. You two seem to know my parents better than I do. Chloe was smiling, but there was no warmth in her eyes. Whether I get married or not is one thing, but for you two to dare speak like this in front of me, do you have a death wish? Leo and Dylan both flinched. What are you going to do? Chloe frowned and ordered, Slap them. Yes, ma'am. Jessica received the order and immediately led her men forward to grab Leo and Dylan. The sharp sounds of slapping echoed through the hall. When the crisp, loud slaps rang out, everyone was too stunned to react. It wasn't until Leo's pained cries were heard that Sophia finally pushed through the crowd. What are you doing? Jessica's usual casual demeanor was gone, her gaze as sharp as a newly honed blade. Miss Reed, your brother can't control his mouth, so he deserves to be taught a lesson. If you interfere, it won't just be his face that suffers. Understand? Sophia clenched her fists, her eyes bloodshot. It wasn't that she was particularly worried about Leo. It was that Chloe's actions were a direct and public humiliation to her. In contrast to Sophia's struggle, Carter stood aside, trying to make himself invisible, as if he couldn't hear Dylan's screams. For a moment, no one in the banquet hall dared to breathe, the only sounds being the slapping and the two men's cries. The slapping only stopped when both their faces were swollen, and an angry shout came from the entrance. What are you doing? At my signal, Chloe had her people stop. Dylan, his eyes swollen from crying, saw Mr. Peterson and threw himself into his arms. Dad, they hit me. They dared to hit me in our own house. You have to get revenge for me. No matter how timid Mr. Peterson usually was, seeing his son's face swollen like a pig's ignited his temper. Miss Collins, you must give me an explanation for this. Chloe's expression was calm. Instead of asking me for an explanation, why don't you ask your dear son what he just said? Mr. Peterson looked at Chloe's intimate posture with me, then turned a suspicious eye on Dylan. He had known about our relationship when Chloe arrived, and he still remembered Dylan's tantrum at the door. If his son had said something he shouldn't have in front of Chloe, he probably wouldn't be able to protect him. Dylan felt a pang of guilt, but he couldn't swallow his anger. With his father present, he shouted defiantly, No matter what I said, she has no right to do this to me. And was I wrong? Ethan is from an orphanage. He's not worthy of being the Collins family's son-in-law. Mr. Peterson's vision went black when he heard this. But before he could react, a cold, indifferent female voice came from the entrance. If a young master of the Hamilton family isn't worthy of the Collins family, then pray tell, who is? You. Everyone turned at the sound of the voice and saw Victoria Hamilton entering with a group of people. She was dressed in a sharply tailored white suit, her long hair tied back, her expression cool and her presence so powerful that the entire banquet hall fell silent. Behind her were her familiar assistant, Linda, and several burly, sharp-eyed bodyguards in black. Victoria's gaze swept across the room, finally landing on Dylan's face, which was twisted in astonishment. Her red lips parted as she repeated her shocking question. If a young master of the Hamilton family isn't worthy of the Collins family, then pray tell, who is? You. The entire hall was utterly silent, so quiet you could hear people breathing. The Hamiltons, the New York family that was on par with the Collinses, and in some areas, even surpassed them. Dylan's face went from green to white, then to a deathly gray. He stammered, pointing at me. How could he be a Hamilton? He's an orphan. An orphan. Victoria let out a disdainful laugh. She ignored Dylan and strode directly towards me. The sound of her high heels on the floor was like a drumbeat on everyone's heart. She stopped in front of me, her eyes, which bore a faint resemblance to mine, losing their usual coldness and filling with a complex, emotional turmoil. She took a file from Linda and, in front of everyone, pulled out a document. A report from the most authoritative genetics lab in Miami. Her voice carried clearly to every corner of the hall. According to the DNA comparison between my mother, Mrs. Eleanor Hamilton, and Mr. Ethan Hayes, the probability of parentage is 99.9999%. Ethan, no, I should call you Asher. The legitimate firstborn son of the Hamilton family, my dear brother, who was kidnapped 19 years ago. She paused, her gaze turning to me, her voice trembling almost imperceptibly. Welcome home. The crowd erupted. If my relationship with Chloe was a bombshell, then my true identity was a nuclear explosion. The man they had mocked as an orphan with unknown parents was actually the heir to the New York Hamilton family. Dylan's legs gave out and he nearly collapsed. Mr. Peterson's face was ashen. He knew the Peterson family was finished. Carter's pupils contracted violently. He finally understood that he had been nothing but a clown from the very beginning. As for Sophia, the color drained from her face. Her eyes, once full of calculation and triumph, now held only endless despair and collapse. She stared at me as if trying to see through me, muttering, "Impossible! This is impossible!" I ignored the tidal wave of shock from the crowd and calmly looked at Victoria, my nominal sister. I nodded, acknowledging her welcome home. Then, my gaze moved past her and settled back on Chloe's face. She was smiling at me, her eyes filled with pure joy and pride, as if my identity didn't matter at all. She was simply happy for me. In that moment, the slight ripples in my heart caused by the revelation of my identity instantly calmed. The status of a Hamilton heir, the title of Apex's CEO, none of it was as important as her single, affirming look. I took her hand and pulled her to my side, standing shoulder to shoulder with Victoria. Only then did I turn my attention to the crumbling Sophia. Sophia, I began slowly, my voice quiet but laced with a bone-chilling coldness. Do you still think I was the one reaching above my station for you? She shuddered as if jolted awake by my voice, her head snapping up, her eyes filled with a crazed accusation. You knew all along? You've been lying to me this whole time. Lying to you? I laughed, but the smile didn't reach my eyes. Compared to the lies you've spun, what does my little secret matter? Weren't you always talking about 3 lives? Eternally devoted? Then tell me, in our last life, after Chloe gave the only medicine that could save her life to your mother, what did you do? My voice rose sharply, filled with suppressed rage and pain. You watched her die from the poison in my arms. While I was devastated by her death, you conspired with outsiders to steal the company I built from the ground up. In the end, I took my own life at her grave, praying that we could meet again in the next life. Sophia, is this your eternal devotion? Was your affection built on the foundation of another person's life and all my hard work? The memories of my past life were like the sharpest of knives, carving into my heart and slowly stripping away Sophia's final disguise. Her face was deathly pale. She stumbled back a step, her lips trembling, unable to utter a single word. The surrounding crowd was dumbfounded, shocked to learn of such a horrifying backstory. I gave her no room to breathe, pressing forward. I was reborn with the memories of my past life, and I thought you were just at a disadvantage without your own. I brought you to my side, gave you a position in my company, promoted you, helped you return to your family, and manage their business for you. I can say with certainty that I have never wronged you in any way. But what about you? How did you treat Chloe? I turned sharply to Chloe, my voice filled with lingering fear and tenderness. Did you think I didn't know that you were the one who poisoned her? You wanted to pull the same trick again, to stage another life-saving drama to make me feel indebted to you and come back to your side. No, it wasn't me. Sophia finally broke down, screaming incoherently. Not you. I sneered and snapped my fingers. Sarah immediately understood and handed a USB drive to the banquet hall staff. Soon, a security video began to play on the large screen. In the video, Sophia could be seen sneaking into Chloe's kitchen and pouring a packet of powder into her drinking water. The evidence was irrefutable. Sophia, I delivered her sentence. You are guilty of premeditated attempted murder, and the evidence is conclusive. Your embezzlement and fraudulent accounting are also clear. What you owe me, and what you owe Chloe, you can spend the rest of your life repaying in prison. As soon as I finished speaking, several uniformed police officers entered and walked directly towards Sophia and Leo. Leo was already scared stiff and was easily handcuffed. Sophia struggled like a madwoman, screaming curses, but was ultimately dragged away. Mrs. Reed, as an accomplice, had already been taken into custody by the police at my house. The family of 3 would be reunited in prison. After handling all that, I turned my gaze to the petrified Carter Vance. When our eyes met, he flinched and nearly fell to his knees. I couldn't even be bothered to say a word to him. A single look of contempt was enough to make him understand that he wasn't even qualified to be my opponent. He would pay the price for choosing the wrong side today. The Vance family's standing in New York would plummet because of his foolishness, and he himself would become the laughingstock of high society. Finally, there were the Petersons. Mr. Peterson, his voice choked with tears, pulled Dylan and was about to kneel and apologize to me and Chloe. I stepped aside, my voice as cold as ice. There's no need. From this day forward, Apex, the Hamilton family, the Collins family, and all affiliated companies will terminate all business with the Peterson family. Mr. Peterson, you're on your own. These words were a commercial death sentence for the Peterson family. Mr. Peterson's vision went black, and he fainted. The party ended on a sour note, but the scandal swept through high society at an even faster pace. In the days that followed, everything went as I had predicted. Sophia, Leo, and Mrs. Reed were convicted on multiple charges and sentenced to life in prison. Carter Vance's reputation was ruined, and the Vance family, under the combined pressure of our three families, was quickly removed from the list of New York's great families, reduced to a third-rate clan. The Peterson family went bankrupt, and the father and son fell from grace overnight, paying a heavy price for their ignorance and arrogance. As for me, at Victoria's insistence, I returned to the Hamilton estate in New York. I met my mother, Eleanor Hamilton, who had been waiting day and night for my return, her hair already streaked with gray. She held me and wept, as if releasing 19 years of longing and worry. I also learned that my father had not disappeared, but had been seriously injured while investigating the kidnapping and had been recovering abroad. He had now returned. The Hamilton family was finally, truly reunited. I officially acknowledged my heritage and took back the name Asher. But to the public, I still had them call me Ethan, because the name Ethan carried the weight of my 2 lifetimes of entanglement and rebirth with Chloe. At the same time, I mobilized Division 7, the vast intelligence network I had created to search for Sophia and investigate my past, and in cooperation with the Hamilton and Collins families, we targeted the mastermind behind my kidnapping, the Kennedy family of New York. Faced with absolute power and irrefutable evidence, that once untouchable family collapsed. All involved were severely punished by the law. For what was owed to me from my past 2 lives, I collected it all in this life with interest. 6 months later, Chloe and I had our wedding of the century on a private island in the Aegean Sea. The sea was a brilliant blue, the sky was clear, and the sand was as white as silver. All our friends and family gathered to witness our happiness. My Hamilton parents and sister, the Collins elders, Jessica, Sarah, Lily, everyone's face was filled with sincere blessings. After the banquet, the noise faded away. I took Chloe's hand and led her to a seaside terrace. The moonlight was like water, gently bathing us, and the sea breeze, carrying the salty scent of freedom, caressed our skin. Chloe leaned against me, looking up with starlight in her eyes. She gently stroked my cheek and said softly, "Welcome home, Asher." I bent down and placed a reverent kiss on her forehead, my voice filled with an overwhelming tenderness. "Wherever you are, that's home." Yes, whether I was Ethan or Asher, an orphan or a wealthy heir, these identities were just names to me. Only the person in my arms was the home for my soul, the sole meaning I had sought across 2 lifetimes. I cupped her face, looking into her eyes, which were more beautiful than the stars. The memory of her cold body in my arms in my past life intertwined with the warmth and vitality of her presence now, filling my heart with the ecstatic joy and gratitude of having found what was lost. "Chloe," I said, my voice hoarse, promising each word, "in this life, I will never let you suffer the slightest grievance. I will spend the rest of my life loving you, protecting you, and cherishing you." Her eyes reddened slightly. She smiled, nodded, and stood on her toes. I could no longer hold back and lowered my head to kiss her soft lips. This kiss held none of the despair and resentment of the past, none of the testing and suspicion of the present. It was only pure love and the promise of a life together. The sound of the waves seemed to be singing an eternal love song just for us. 3 lives, 3 worlds, eternally devoted. It turned out, the one I had been searching for all along was always her. And thankfully, in this life I didn't miss her again.